Well, we're a few minutes after. I think it's a good time to make a start. And, now we've been graced by the presence of Sarah joining us. I'm kidding, of course. Sarah's had a hectic time. So I'm only joking. Like, she's been amazing to join so quick. And you only got back yesterday as well, didn't you, Sarah, from traveling?
1:30 this morning.
Okay.
Walked through the door. Yeah.
I will not give you a hard time over that. That's incredible. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's amazing.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
It will be anytime. So, okay, what we'll do is we'll make a start. We're a few minutes past. So we'll kick things off. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. I mean, I'm here in Birmingham today. I'm normally in Scotland. Sarah's Chester way as well. And I know that many of us, it's sweltering hot. People might be enjoying the sun. But as we were saying earlier, that we do record these and upload them to YouTube, so everyone gets a bite at the cherry to watch them on playback afterwards. So hopefully no one misses out with our sessions. But thanks everyone for joining us today. So very briefly, we'll just cover the Microsoft Event Code of Conduct. It's very wordy. We're not going to go through it, but we know most of you. It's a great community, and we know that everyone's just here to support each other and be respectful of each other. And that's kind of the key to that. If anyone's got any issues, just reach out to me or Sarah directly if you want to. And we'll help you out where we can. So today's sessions, we've actually got some really top speakers and some really, really good news here. So first up, we're going to have Jayshree Ostwal talking about securing your Copilot agents, implementing robust security controls. And what we'd really love to do, Sarah and I, is say congratulations to Jayshree today. Today, Jayshree has been awarded the Microsoft MVP Award for Copilot Studio. So congratulations, Jayshree. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here on day one. That's wonderful.
No, it is. It's a massive achievement, and congrats. That is absolutely fantastic news. And also, after Jayshree speaks, we've got the fantastic Neil Rowlands as well, thinking like a Power Platform architect. And just another little announcement as well. Neil and I have been lucky enough to be accepted to deliver a joint workshop at the Baltic Summit in Poland in September, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So again, another top speaker. Thanks so much, Neil. It's great to have you join us. Okay,
I'm excited for this one, Keith, because I walked in halfway through Neil's session in Manchester not long ago.
Oh, did you?
So I've seen half of this, but not the first half. So
you saw the advanced section, the second half. You gate crashed it.
I just interrupted mid-flow.
I'm here now. Yeah.
Standard behaviour. Sorry, Neil. I'm looking forward to this.
Neil, could you? Yeah, Neil,
be there in Manchester, and good that you'll see the whole thing now.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one of the recordings on playback of the full thing as well. It's absolutely brilliant. But I mean, knowing Sarah, she might just barge in and say, Neil, could you just start from the beginning because I'm here now? I'm kidding. She won't do that. I'm giving you a hard time tonight. I'm sorry, Sarah. I know you'll get me back. So
I will get you back. Don't worry.
Well, fantastic. Well, if there's anything else to cover, Sarah, go for it. Otherwise, we can hand over to the fantastic Jayshree.
Just one other announcement. I can see Kieran's on the call here, and we've got some more good news. Hey, congratulations on your new job working with Miss AI. So you're in really good hands with Steph Stacey there. First employee for Miss AI, and a great role for you. So
Thank you.
Really pleased. Well done.
Congratulations, Kieran. That's absolutely great news. Yes, fantastic.
A load of people in the user group.
But you know what? That's what you need to do. People often ask, how do I get a chance? How do I get the opportunity? And you put yourself out there, and you just tried that bit harder than everybody else to show off what you can do. So well done. You deserve that.
Yeah, totally echo that. And that's the thing, Kieran. I think that's what this community is all about, that you just get out there, you network, you work hard, and you show off that you've got those amazing skills, and they'll be in demand. People will want them, and that's why you've got that awesome job. So congratulations.
I mean, I don't think it's quite sunk in yet, so yeah. It's been only the second time I've signed a contract, so yeah.
Well, that's great news. Exciting times ahead. Fantastic. Well, There we go. We're starting off with great news already. So yeah, thanks everyone for being a part of it tonight. With that, I'll pass over to Jayshree if you'd like to share your screen and go ahead. Looking forward to this.
Are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah, looking great.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone. So I'm so excited to present a session here with these exciting people on Power Platform Community Hi-Fi User Group on a topic that is securing Copilot agents and how can we implement robust security controls. Myself, Jayshree Ostwal, I'm manager in Modern Workplace Engineering, MCT, and newly awarded MVP, just day one for me. So I will walk you through how to govern, monitor, and secure the agents effectively on Power Platform. Let's go through the agenda for today. We will understand what are the AI concerns, why we need to secure our Copilot agents, how can we secure Copilot agents, and then I will deep dive on the demo as well. As Copilot agents are becoming integral to modern applications, ensuring their secure deployment and management is also paramount. So today, we will focus on practical approaches to implement robust security controls, empowering organizations to safeguard their Copilot ecosystem effectively. And for that, I will cover the key topics, which includes leveraging data loss prevention policies to control access to channels, connectors, and generative AI capabilities as well, while also addressing unauthenticated usage risk. Additionally, I will cover Copilot sharing controls, which enables organization to establish guardrails for agent creation as well as usage. So this one is just a popular slide. I know everywhere the same slide, but I'll just give a brief. Uh, as you all know, Copilot Studio from Power Platform is a tool for building our agents as well as extending all those M365 Copilot agents. So with this whole Copilot Studio, Agent Builder, and integration with Azure AI Foundry, we can create spectrum of agents. And basically, if you are able to create agents all the way from simple agents like retrieval-based agents to more advanced level agents, these agents can vary in complexity, capabilities, and all depending on our business requirements. So if you see this,
but we were drinking a lot. We were drinking a lot.
Franco, are you on?
There we go, just muted. Sorry, Jayshree. All good.
No worries. So if you see on the screen, I have the arrow pointing, issuing the progression, which also emphasizes that as more and more advanced agents we are creating, the need for robust governance and security measures is required throughout the agent lifecycle. And these are the top security. So from wider generative AI study results, there have been seen that data oversharing and data leaks of sensitive data is the biggest concern. And similarly, the wider question is how to identify the risky use of AI. And if somebody is querying continuously any type of sensitive data. And on top of that, one of the key question is how can we get visibility into AI governance and risk? How should we monitor and manage this? What are the inputs into these AI tools? And what are the responses that are getting generated? And are these all aligned with our organization policies? So to find all these answers, let's dive into Copilot agent governance. When we are talking about agent governance, the foundational security of Copilot Studio is built into every layer of Power Platform because Copilot Studio is one of the product from Power Platform. So every layer of Power Platform has foundational security. So it begins at the tenant level, and cascades down to all the elements within that environment. As you can see, there is native integration with Entra ID, and there are multiple environments. So environments are like management containers, and these containers manage all these policies, all these settings, and allows us to control permissions for agents, cloud flows, applications, power apps, APIs, and 1400 plus connectors as well. So now if we can enable cross-tenant as well, inbound and outbound restrictions, which is again one of the security measure for agent governance. And lastly, we have Dataverse, which comes with rich business logic as well as powerful security model. And we can use this as well, or Dataverse as well, to control permissions. There are custom roles in Dataverse, and a lot of these capabilities are available for us out of box on within Power Platform and Copilot Studio. So we should understand all these aspects of Power Platform. One of the key feature on Copilot Studio managed environment is blocking and limit sharing for Copilot Studio. When we are talking about large organizations, it's crucial to strike the balance between collaboration and control, because unrestricted sharing of these low code assets like Copilot agents can lead to unintended access, then performance issues, again, compliance concerns. So managed environments gives administrator the ability to step in and establish some governance or guardrails that can enforce policies at scale. So by enforcing this sharing limits, especially excluding like security groups and capping to individual access, we can ensure that Copilot agents remain purposeful and performance friendly. So we can allow broad access or restrict to tightly within caps on individuals or permissions. If you can see, there are like numeric numbers which we can limit to those users or security groups. And what would be the result of this approach? So we can prevent unnecessary sharing sprawl. We can reduce the risk of performance bottlenecks, and we can enhance compliance and auditability as well. And we can empower makers within a secure framework and not a lockdown one. So I would immediately give a demo. Let me switch back to the demo tenant. I'll be showing all the features and immediately we give a demo so that we are on the same page. So when we land on Power Platform Admin Center, I have created some of the rules, and we can find out all the rules under environment groups. And once we click on the sharing agents with viewer permission, I can define this sharing agents with viewers permission rule. I can define this. I just want to share this with individual. And again, on that individual basis, how many users I want to share this one, I can limit that. And what would be the business case for this one? For example, HR app or HR Copilot agent, which is mainly for pay scale related things. So now I don't want that to be shared widely, and I just want that to be shared within my HR team. And that's where we can limit this agent sharing. So this one ensures that agents are not overshared, and viewers are, we can change editor role permissions as well. Here there is one more permission, like sharing agents with editor permission. So we can define the viewer and editor roles, and those are kept intentional, and our environment as well remains secure and compliant. Let's navigate back to our next slide. Next security control is DLP policy, which is the most pivotal to control data exfiltration. So when we apply these DLP policies to Copilot Studio agents, or we can apply to apps and flows, with these connector policies, we can easily define into different categories like business, non-business, and blocked. So we can block the connectors which we don't want to let others or users use. So we have that ability to disable specific channels as well. If you see on the screen, there is Facebook channel, Omni channel. So if I don't want to publish my agent, or if I don't want to allow users to publish our internal organizational agent on Facebook, then I can easily block that. We can also block specific knowledge like SharePoint. I can make sure that I am disabling public websites as well. So there are granular controls defined on DLP policies. Overall, we have lots of control with these connector policies. And the most important, which I like, is chat without intra ID authentication in Copilot Studio, which allows to block agent makers from publishing agents that are not configured for authentication. So if I am not authenticated, then I won't be able to access that agent. And I'm happy to dive into a demo for this as well. So when we land on the Power Platform Admin Center under Data and Privacy, we can see the data policy. And on this DLP policy, we can create new policies, or we can edit policies. So there are 1400 plus connectors, and where we can define them into 3 categories like business, non-business, and blocked. So I can immediately find out from here what are the Copilot channels here, and I can block them if I think that those are not useful for my organization. So here, if I want to block applications insight, or I want to block omnichannel, then I can immediately block. And if you see, I have already blocked chat without intra ID authentication. So whatever agents would be communicating, they are not allowed with anonymous access. So they need to provide some their intra ID authentication. Or as I mentioned you, we can find out Facebook channel in Copilot Studio. So if I block this channel from here, that means whichever environments have been added on this policy won't be able to publish their agents to Facebook at any time. Isn't this a powerful control? So moving to the next control, it's agent protection status. And this is a pretty new control, which I have seen. But this feature is now generally available, and this increases the sense of security for makers while building the agents within Copilot Studio, because it shows us threat protection level, authentication, policies, and content moderation as well. And there are 3 categories for protection status. One is protected. That means all the security checks have been passed, and it's marked with green shield. Whereas another one is like needs review, which indicates that there are some issues with policies or authentication. And third one is unknown. So there is no security data available for this. Let me navigate to my demo tenant. Yeah. So once we land on Copilot Studio homepage, and on the agents tab, these are all the agents I created over the time. But this one is new one, which is like protection status. And if I drill down into the protector status, it shows up me green shield. That means it is protected and we don't need any further action. So no sessions to scan or threat detection policies are still active. And authentication is like it's required because I have blocked anonymous access, or I have included chat. Uh, I have blocked the chat without an intra ID. That's why I'm able to see that no authentication is disabled. That means publicly available in any channel is blocked, and I would be allowed to authenticate with Microsoft ID only. And we can as well authenticate manually, but there are few steps needed. So going back to the agents, there are, as I mentioned, there are three types. One is protected and another one is needs review. I would walk you through on for need review because all my agents are protected, are pretty secure. So when we look into the needs review, we would be able to see all the details, and that detail shows up how many messages have been blocked due to content moderation, and it ensures that responses meet standard standard content, and this shows any policy violation or threat or any moderation concerns. And that's how we would be able to protect our agents as well, or we would be able to understand what things needs to be considered to make this as a protected. These are mainly controls which we can have for Copilot Studio security. But when we navigate to the reporting and monitoring, there are many more options available on Copilot Studio for Copilot Studio agents, I would say. Yeah, so on this one, when we navigate to licensing on Copilot Studio from Power Platform Admin Center, we would be able to see or review all the message capacity and consumption over the 2 months or over 12 months, even though it's add-on message capacity or it's pay-as-you-go subscription. And we can find out what is the consumption at agent level as well as Power Platform admin. And we can download those reports in Excel format. I will give a walkthrough at the end on this. And what are the other possible options to have inventory of these agents? One of them is Microsoft Admin Center, where we can view the full inventory of shared agents within our tenant. And if you see, I can see multiple agents, and on each agent, if I think that this is not compliant, then I can block them. So I can proactively block any shared agents that don't meet our governance standards. So it's pretty easy from Microsoft Admin Center. And again, what are other options? In Power Platform Admin Center as well, we can view all the custom or shared agents. And this gives us more centralized visibility to manage this sprawl of AI, because visibility drives control. If we are able to make those visible, that means we are controlling and we can control in some way. And next feature is like audit logs and alerts. For this one, the best approach is to have Microsoft Purview. Here, we can implement Sentinel connectors as well for alerts and detection, because all the activities related Copilot Studio or Copilot are already captured on Purview. And even anonymous activities can be traced on this, and this ensures us trust and traceability. So as Copilot agents are becoming integral of how we work, these controls ensure we operate safely, and all these agents are also operating safely, responsibly, and in alignment with our organizational values. So if I give you a quick walkthrough of my tenant on the monitoring part, I would be able to give you a quick glance. So if I navigate to Power Platform Admin Center under Copilot Studio, you would be able to see all the capacity consumption trend. And I could see what are the consumption in each month. I can monitor these from environment perspective as well. And I can select environment. I can just filter out to that environment. And if there is any consumption, then I can download that report as well. Moving back to the Microsoft Admin Center, we would be able to find out all the controls which have been shared under integrated apps and shared agents, where we can easily block agents. So I feel that this is not the rightly compliant, or it's not following all the security or governance controls, then those can be easily blocked from Microsoft Admin Center. And next one was Microsoft Purview. If we navigate to Microsoft Purview, we have different kind of activities with Copilot, which can be easily tracked. And this one is also having, we can build up connection with Sentinel, where we can easily get all the alerts as well. So this is how we can go through all these the ways of securing and monitoring Copilot Studio agents. Thank you so much for listening to me. That's it from my side. Thank you. If any questions, I'm happy to take those questions.
Thank you, Jayshree. Just to jump in and say a quick comment, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And I loved that you had multiple demos that all went to plan, really slick and really well explained. So thank you so much. But yes, Jayshree says, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to use the raise the hand in Teams or throw something in the chat. And Jayshree, if anyone does think of anything later, is it okay if they reach out to you?
Yeah, definitely. Please ping me on LinkedIn. I'm there to help you out.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Jayshree, are you with us in London next week at Experts Live?
Yeah, I'm presenting over there as well.
In person. Yeah,
in person.
So if anybody's around, come down. I've got the details I can share with you.
Fantastic.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah, I really wish I could make that one. But that's going to be a great event for sure. Great.
Brilliant audience. Yeah, brilliant audience. Thanks for listening to me.
Oh, and thank you again. Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, again, a lot of great information from Jayshree there, lots covered. If anyone has any questions, like many others, Jayshree's great to reach out to if you've got any questions. So thank you again so much for that. Lots of, love in the comments and the reactions there. With that, I think we're ready to hand over to the fantastic Neil Rowlands, ready for his session as well. So take it away, sir, when you're ready.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Keith. Thanks very much, Sarah, for organising this. Here we go. So, yeah, I am Neil Rowlands. I've been doing Power Platform for 5 years, Power BI for 8 years. What we're doing today is taking a look at thinking like a Power Platform architect. Okay. Right. So we've got a small group, so we'll make this interactive. So anytime you want to ask a question or answer a question that I ask, don't need to raise your hand, just come off mute and go for it. Okay, and that way it will be more like a seminar or a workshop. So this presentation is kind of things that I learned when I was a Power Platform developer, and I wish I'd known at the time. That's the context of this. And I presented this a few times at a number of different user groups. Yeah, generally it's worked quite well. I hope everybody can learn something from this. So 2 parts here. So to be a Power Platform architect, from my perspective, 2 things. We need technical leadership, and then we need the soft skills of business partnering. So just going back to the beginning. So Power Platform is for internal digital transformation. So when we're getting involved in a project from the start, let's just check, is Power Platform the right choice? So for internal digital transformation, there are some exceptions. Power Pages, we can share Power BI workspaces with external guests. We can share Canvas apps with external guests. We can embed Copilots into websites. So is Power Platform the right choice, or is Power Platform one project within a wider program? And it may be as an architect we have to educate people on when Power Platform is a good candidate and when it's not the most appropriate candidate. Okay, starting from who we are. So what's our persona? All right, so pre-sales architect. Does anybody want to define what a pre-sales architect role is?
Okay, I'm happy to jump in and take a shot if that's all right, Neil.
Please do, Keith. Yes, you're the perfect person to answer this.
I'll do my best here. So I know some organizations I've worked with, the pre-sales architect might be there from the very beginning in terms of dealing with a client, trying to do the discovery and seeing what they want, what their outcomes are, what their kind of goals are, and kind of maybe working on a bit of a blueprint for the architecture of how we could potentially create the solution for that.
Fantastic, brilliant. That described it much better than I could. That's why we have audience participation. All right, technical architect, I'll take this as kind of what I do. So technical architect knows the subject well and then helps the organization or the team make the right choices around that. So a lot of soft skills, education, informing and influencing. Solutions architect, anybody familiar with that role type? So whereas a technical architect looks out, a solutions architect is usually embedded in a program or project, and they're given business use cases, and they then got to find the right technology to match that and make it work. Integration architect will be working with different technologies to make them all talk to each other. An enterprise architect would then sit above all of those and is concerned with the organization as a whole, that there is a holistic approach to the choices that are being made. We could be an IT administrator, we could be a developer based in IT, or we could be a developer based outside of IT, or we could be a citizen developer. That's a term I don't really see all that much these days from Microsoft, but that's kind of what Power Platform was originally pitched at a few years ago. Right. Also, what will influence our what will influence what we can deliver in the project? Are we permanent or contract? If we're permanent, we'll probably know more people, we'll have a wider network within the organization, and we're personally more connected with the outcome of the project. When we're a contractor or a consultant, generally we tend to know less people, and we're there as a fixed resource to deliver a particular piece of work for a period of time. So it's a much more task-based kind of work. How early in the project are we joining? If we're joining earlier on before the big decisions are made, we have more influence. If we're joining a project after some of the big decisions have been made, it's going to be more difficult to make bigger changes. If we're unsure of a role, we could take a look at Power Platform Admin Center. If we're system administrator of any environments, they will show up in there. The more environments we have access to, then the more technical influence we have generally. Right, Microsoft always recommend that we consider out-of-the-box functionality first. Okay. So our two choices there would be Dynamics Customer Service, CRM, and Dataverse Common Data Model Schema. Is anybody familiar with the Dataverse Common Data Model Schema?
Yeah, I've seen that one once or twice as well.
Yeah, anybody want to define it?
I don't want to hog this, but I will be the backup in case no one else wants to jump in and do a better job than me.
No worries. I go for it, Keith.
All right then. Okay, I'm here. So the common data model was this, Neil? Just to double check.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so common data model or CDM is a standard that Microsoft, Adobe, and some other organizations, if I remember correctly, developed together of kind of reusable core, automatically created system tables like accounts, contacts, users, things that we might want to share across multiple solutions potentially.
Fantastic. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
So our choices, dynamics, we take something that is generic and we tend to customize it to meet our needs, or we can start off with the common tables that are provided in every environment: account, contact, email, fast, task, etc., and then use that as our starting point to accelerate our development, and then make it interoperable with other data sources such as SQL Server. So we would generally evaluate both at the start of the project. So how do we capture data? Generally, there's three options. Microsoft Forms, simple, quick, no validation, sit outside Power Platform. We're all familiar with that. Canvas app, great for single-use data entry. So I want to submit an annual leave request. I want to review my own entries. We've got full control over the UI and UX. I'm sure most of us here have built or seen Canvas apps. Model-driven apps, by contrast, start with Dataverse. We start off with a data table, data schema, much better for sorting and filtering a large number of records. We don't really have any control over the UI UX. We just get shades of gray. We can also follow business process in there. We should also consider desktop or mobile. So are our users going to be on a Surface, on a laptop? Are they going to have mobile devices? If we're going to have mobile devices, then how will they connect? Will it be 4G or Wi-Fi? It's also worth checking early on where those users are going to be when they're connecting. So, for example, the business requirements might say people work in a warehouse, but it's worth going to those people and having a conversation, because actually, if they then have to leave that warehouse to check a lorry coming in, does the Wi-Fi extend that far? It's worth finding these kind of things out earlier on. How fast we want to develop. Model-driven apps have offline for mobile built in. Canvas apps can be responsive and delivered on mobile devices. Model-driven apps are responsive by default. How will we display data? So Canvas apps, we can view my own and my team submissions. Model-driven apps are great for viewing, editing, and processing all submissions. We can develop both for two different personas, end users and management teams. So if we have some kind of submission process and administrative team who are managing that, we could have a very nice, pretty Canvas app for our end users that's got help guidance in there and bespoke routing within the app. And then we could have a model-driven app where our administrators are going in to manage all the thousands of records. So where will we store data? Some of our common options will be SharePoint, Dataverse. We'll talk about those briefly now. Also Azure, SQL, or Cosmos. So they can be queried, whereas Dataverse, we can't write an SQL statement. Fabric now. And what will be coming is that Dataverse can connect to Fabric as virtual tables. So that will start to become a popular option. On-premises SQL Server, we might have file data, typically CSV, JSON, XML, and this will be for integration and reference data. So quite static data. So let's consider data volume and velocity. Does anybody want to define what data volume and velocity are?
Don't make me do it, folks, please. No, don't. We've heard enough from me.
We've got a few experienced people on here. I'm sure I can.
Sarah did speak up first, actually. Yeah, to be fair, you know.
I'm just here to wind you up, Keith. I don't think I had much more.
Well, that's what Sarah brings to these events. Thanks, Sarah. I'm messing.
Right. Humanise the diva.
Yeah, that bring me down a peg or two. Yeah, anyone got any thoughts on that one?
Joel's put an answer in the chat for how much and how quick.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Yes, I didn't read that. Yes, great.
It.
Thank you very much, Joel. Exactly right. Yes. So data volume. So how much data and how often is it going to change? So at the start of a project, we're not necessarily going to have an exact answer, but we might be able to think of it. Is it thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, or more than that? That will influence our choice of storage. How often is it going to change? If we think of something like a CRM, something that's managing people and orders, a user and their address or the email address is going to change infrequently. So that's going to be low velocity, whereas something like sales or some kind of real-time monitoring is going to be changing often. Therefore, that's high velocity. We probably wouldn't choose Dataverse for high velocity tasks. There are Azure SQL servers that are much better in responsiveness for that. Power Platform people in organizations, the main two choices of data storage will be SharePoint and Dataverse. So let's get a clearer understanding of those. So opening up to everybody here, what are the advantages and disadvantages, first of all, of SharePoint?
I'd say get up and running really quickly and low barrier to entry skills-wise with things like SharePoint lists and licensing.
Yep, fantastic, Franco. Thank you. Yes.
Certainly I would chip in another. Sorry, but I know Dataverse, we've got so many great benefits with kind of validation and business logic, as well as a strong security model. So it comes with a lot more than just the data storage.
Yeah, okay. So any weaknesses on choosing SharePoint?
Security.
Not granular controls. Not granular controls.
Yep, okay.
Security, performance, probably one.
Yep,
SharePoint
great.
Can't be as performant. The relational side of things, as we all know, is limited at best for SharePoint stuff as well. So that's always a thing that I think becomes its Achilles heel.
Exactly right. SharePoint is a data source. It's not a database. Perfect. Thanks, Craig. All right, let's review what I prepared earlier. So SharePoint is great for smaller projects. Franco mentioned that. So small data volume or low velocity. It's okay for teams with a low budget. It's a familiar tool for business users. Security, data modeling, performance are not important. Great for prototyping. We want to do something in a week and show it to someone. If that project might grow legs, then I'd suggest trialing migration to Dataverse early on. The reason for that, although SharePoint and Dataverse are both made by Microsoft, the data types don't always match up. But if we build with that data transfer in mind, then we can make our life easier in the future. So maximum item limits. If we've been around Power Platform for a while, then 500, 2,000 and 5,000 will be familiar numbers for this. And as architects, we should probably know these. So where does the number 500, particularly in terms of Canvas apps, come from?
That's a view threshold limit. I think there's a confusion I see quite a lot online, and people think that is the limit for lists, and it's not. It's the limit of what you can see. I always say this to people, like, if I looked at my wife's wardrobe and she's got 5 million pairs of shoes, you can only see the 5 pairs at the front. That's your 5,000 you can see in a list, but there's about another 5 million at the back that you can't quite see. That's the difference between the view threshold and the actual capacity for a list. But like 5,000 is still not quite a lot, really.
Perfect, thank you, Craig. So yes, 5,000 is the view limit threshold on a SharePoint list. So if a SharePoint list has got 5,001 items, we can query that, but SharePoint will only return the first 5,000. The 5,000 first will not be returned. So that's basically our up limit. There are workarounds it. People do create Power Automate flows to work around that when there's no other option. But in general, we want to avoid any solution that's going to have a data volume of higher than 5,000 items in SharePoint. So our 500 and 2,000, so these refer to delegation, and particularly in Canvas apps. Has anyone seen these kind of numbers before in a Canvas app? Yep, Franco has. Yep. You want to talk about these?
So yeah, I can. Neil, do you really want me to?
Why not?
Okay. Okay, so I'll have a go. Yeah, certainly Canvas app in the settings, 500 can be the row level limit that is returned when we pull from data sources, but we can change the value, but we can increase it to a maximum of 2,000 records.
Exactly right. Thanks, Keith. Yes, and we do that within the settings. 500 is default. We can increase the maximum row limit to 2,000, and this refers to delegation. Delegation can be difficult to get our heads around. the way I think about this is if I'm performing a PowerFX function, and do we want that function to that data processing operation to happen on the user's device in the Canvas app, which we can't control, or do you want that data operation to happen on the data source? So things like sorting and filtering, we want that to be processed on the data source, and the data source just to return the results of that. So we're delegating the data operation to the data source. Most PowerFX functions now support delegation, but there are some that don't. So if we are going to be having a data volume of over 2,000 records, it's worth then getting familiar with the PowerFX formulae that are not delegable, and then just assessing, is that going to have an impact on our project? So we know that early on rather than later. SharePoint, unreliable data saving, and it's very, very slow. So now we've seen SharePoint, does everyone want to contribute any positives or negatives on Dataverse?
We've got a hand up there. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Gary's got the hand up. I don't know if that's deliberate because it's gone down again now.
Yeah. I have a question, Sarah.
Okay.
So we are dealing with a data source that have 6,000 to 7,000 records, but we are supposed to provide an option to search on a particular column. But what is happening is, as you know, the delegation works only up to 2,000. We can increase it to a certain extent. But let's say if my record what I'm searching is somewhere in the bottom of the table, you know, it's
so some PowerFX formally are delegable and some are not. So I can dig out the Microsoft Learn checklist of which functions are and which aren't, and send that to you after Guru if you like. So Dataverse, what are the good points and what are the bad points?
I say good points for me is that I can build Power Pages on top of it. I can use data flows to get info in from external systems, virtual tables, all the really tried and trusted row level security and mature automation on top of that as well. Really powerfully scalable.
Great, lovely. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Thanks, Craig, for the chat. Okay, any other thoughts on Dataverse?
Yeah, I think been mentioned in the chat as well, you know, and by yourself, you know, about licensing, you know, to use Dataverse, you know, the consideration for premium licenses to use that as well.
Correct, yes, and that's the main obstacle to organizations using Dataverse. We'll see that shortly. So Dataverse for business apps, where there's medium data volume and medium data velocity. So we don't have super high data, we don't have super fast data. Auditing, this is a big win for when we're building model-driven app for a team of people. Big win for the administrators. They can then see the change log. So PersonEct change a particular column from value of 10 to value of 20 on a particular date. Security, modeling we mentioned, offline for mobile is built in, but when we consider that, if a user is on their mobile phone, so it's good for text notes and photos, but it's bad for files. It's expensive, it's limited at mass. What kind of mass functions can we do in Dataverse?
I think, do you mean in terms of roll-ups, for example? Or
yeah, exactly. Calculated columns, roll-ups, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, agreed. Totally limited for things like average. I think average sum count, min max, pretty much.
Exactly right. Yes, and some data calculations as well. But yeah, quite limited. So we wouldn't want to build an accounting app on top of Dataverse. It doesn't have the amount of precision formally in there. We wouldn't generally have file storage in Dataverse because Dataverse storage is very expensive. It's not suitable for high volume archival data. Some kind of SQL server might be better for that, or these days a Fabric workspace. Reliable data saving, but it is much slower when compared to Azure SQL products. Next, okay, how we get data on. ingest data. It's rare that we'll work on a project that is completely greenfield. There's almost certainly going to be some data somewhere that we need to move into our data store. What are options? Data flows are Power Query for Dataverse. If anybody's used Power BI, when you get data and you connect to a data source and you then work with it in Power Query to, for example, drop columns, combine data sources, that's what data flows are. We've got a classic import from Excel within the make.powerapps tables area. That's good for a single import of an Excel file. So Power Automate. Now, a lot of people do use Power Automate as just a fallback, but it's not an extract transform load tool. There's no built-in error handling and it doesn't scale. So if we're going to be importing 10,000 records of Power Automate and a flow run 2026 fails, it's actually very difficult to identify that in the Maker portal and then find out which flow run failed and why did it fail. Logic apps. Logic apps are Power Automate actions, but within the Azure portal. So we as business developers tend to use make.powerapps.com, but IT developers would use the Azure portal, including Logic apps. We also have now a modern import experience from Excel and SharePoint. When we create table, it defaults now into a new blank screen where we can import from Excel or SharePoint. And this is absolutely fantastic for these two use cases. The challenge around this is that we'll create a schema and import data into our development environment, but there's not currently an equivalent to import data into an existing schema in a test or prod environment. So we can create the schema and load data into dev. The question then becomes, once we deploy those schemas to our test and prod environments, how do we get data in? If we're using Dataverse, what we can do is we can then create a model-driven app and then use Excel templates to export a template, copy our data over within Excel, and then import that into the model-driven app. And those two functions, export to Excel and import, are along the ribbon on the model-driven app. Import the data that way, and that will work because the Excel export has been created from the view for us with the right column types and schema. So that's probably the most efficient way to create a schema and bring data into a prod environment currently. Other questions may we have? Do we want to present SQL Server through virtual tables? Document storage, two main choices would be Azure Blob or SharePoint document libraries. Do we have any reference data? So reference data is data that remains static across our environments. For example, a business organization hierarchy. That's not going to be any different between dev or prod. And we want to set that up once and enforce that across our environments. Power Platform not really very good at that. So how we handle that? Do we have an on-premises data gateway in place? If we can be using data flows, it may be that sometimes a on-premises data gateway is needed. So therefore, I would always recommend, if we're in an architect or senior developer role, do a technical test earlier on. So trial a data flow and import into both the dev and the prod environments. Would anybody like to suggest why we should do this trial in both the dev and the prod environments? What could be different between these two environments?
Go for it, Franco. He's off mute.
I'd say, yeah, amount of resource, amount of data as well.
Possibly, yes, that's right. Yes, I'm thinking more in terms of the environment setup. Any things we might be setting up in the Power Platform Admin Center.
So maybe if we had some DLP settings or something that might affect the connectors and that data access potentially.
Exactly right, Keith, yes. Most organizations will have different data loss policies in place in prod compared to dev. The DLPs in a dev environment will be looser than in prod. I have worked on a project which I did my data migration and go live on a Saturday. I was the only person doing that. I had tested everything in dev, migrated everything through to prod, got up on the Saturday, started doing work, and then found out that my data migration process did not work at all. I then had to find a new way to do that on that Saturday. And the reason for that was the Microsoft Entra ID connector was not included in the prod DLP. So there could be all sorts of things that us up on the data migration piece. So let's find out early on that our DLPs match and get that signed off. And then if the IT admins actually change their DLPs later on but don't notify us, then at least we've done our test and got something signed off earlier on, well before the go live. As well as ingesting data, we may need to share that data with other data sources. So how are we going to do any integration? We've got Dataverse API for any very technical people. Azure Data Factory will bring multiple different data sources together, and that functionality is now being migrated into Power BI workspaces for as Fabric. Service Bus. So if we've got 3 different data sources and they're all talking to each other, we've then got a triangle of connections. We've got 3 connections. If we've got 5 data sources, we then end up more connections and it starts to get a little bit spaghetti. The service bus would streamline that. Each data source would then talk instead of to each other to the service bus. The service bus would act like a postman and then deliver the message to the other data source. So we're standardizing endpoints communication. Logic apps, great for integration. So Power Automate actions embedded within the Azure portal, great for automating workflows within Azure. So let's consider how many connections are there between endpoints. Will there be any inbound requests from other services? So let's imagine we're creating some kind of CRM for our employees, so data about our employees. Once we start setting all that up, other people in the business will then come to say, well, actually, we want to access that data as well. Let's consider that early on. If we've got a table with 20 columns about our members of staff, do we want those the services to be able to see all 20 columns, or do we want to find a way to expose, for example, only 5 of those columns that are less sensitive to different departments? So do we want to create a subset for some of our colleagues? How will we secure our data? So there's 4 main roles for Power Platform environments. We've got a basic user, which is just the minimum level of entry to an environment. Environment maker and system customizer. These names, these security roles are not well named, but we should know what they are. Can anybody define what environment maker and what system customizer each give access to?
I kind
anyone
of
but Keith.
So go ahead.
I said anyone but Keith. Go on, Franco.
I'm staying on mute.
Yeah, I'm typically using those to be able to select between different environments in the Maker portal, and system customize one of the many things that I need in order to get armed and dangerous with Power Pages as well, and that has other purposes and benefits too.
Okay, thanks, Franco. So Environment Maker allows the user to create resources, apps and flows. System Customizer allows access to the data itself and to Dataverse. So if our environments are Canvas apps and Power Automate in SharePoint, we don't need the System Customizer role. If our developers are doing Power Platform development work, then they'll need Environment Maker and System Customizer. System admin allows people to maintain, administer the environment. That would only be granted to a small number of people. So we can secure our data with data loss policies. We mentioned these earlier. So for those who don't know, data loss policy manages the connectors we have available. There's 1,500 Microsoft and third-party connectors available now. What organizations do not want is someone to be able to create a flow that says, I want to take everything from my OneDrive for business account and automatically say that to my OneDrive for personal account. Data loss policy would prevent that from happening. It manages our connectors for Canvas apps, Power Automate flows, and now Copilot. Dataverse, quite a lot of security options there. We have role-based, business unit teams, record level, column level. Haven't got time to go into detail of those now. SharePoint sites, if we're using those, then as an architectural lead developer, then I'd say, how do we lock down our SharePoint sites? If we're dealing with multiple sites, each developer is going to have a slightly different view on what a lockdown SharePoint site is. So let's lock down one, we'll standardize it and document it, and then say to our team, this is how we do it. What classification of connectors will we have? So we've got standard connectors such as Excel, Office 365 users, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. We probably all built a Canvas app or a flow containing those. We also have premium. So Microsoft require any user of an app or a flow that contains a premium connector, such as Dataverse, DevOps, SQL Server, or peculiarly Word, to have a premium license. Custom connectors is a wrapper for a published API. So where there is a service that does not have a connector made for it, but there is an API, we can create a custom connector that wraps around that API and allows us to exchange data with it. Where there is no connector or API available, then we can fall back to Power Automate Desktop. Now, although that's called Power Automate, it's not really anything like Power Automate Cloud. Power Automate Desktop is remote process automation. So imagine we've got a legacy app like Access or some kind of old HR system. It's not in the cloud, there's no connectors, but we need to automate and get data in and out of it. Power Automate Desktop is our choice. Let's think like an architect. So let's evaluate the project and we'll list out all the connectors. Then we're going to group them by classification. So we're going to put everything into these 4 buckets here. And that'll then help us understand our licensing that may be needed. We can then engage with our tenant admins to think about our data loss policies. Once we know what connectors are available or what's needed, we'll match that to the DLPs. And again, we would then do technical tests, create a flow or app with the connectors, and then deploy to prod. Let's do that early on and make sure that everything works before we begin building and then run into a problem later. Licensing. No one likes Microsoft licensing. Even the Microsoft licensing experts don't like it. But as an architect or lead dev, we need to have some familiarity with it. So E3, that's the basic sort of Office productivity. So our Outlook, Word, Excel. This includes Power App per app. So if I create a Canvas app based on a SharePoint data source that is for workspace bookings, I can actually deploy that to all my staff under an E3 license. Okay. E5 is the same as E3, but it includes Power App per app and Power BI Pro and Purview actually. We then got Dynamics Customer Service Professional and Enterprise. We've got Power Apps Premium, Power Automate, Power BI Pro. That's a lot of things to get our head around. So how do we make sense of this? Let's quantify. How many licenses of each type have been purchased? So we'll speak to our M365 tenant admin to get this information. And we'll go through and we'll just note all these down in Excel or something like that. Now, each license, we might have procured, for example, 1,000 Power Apps Premium licenses, but only 500 of those have been assigned to users. That means we've got spare capacity in an organization of 500 licenses. That means we don't then need to go through a business use case to apply for more. Then quantify how many additional users need to have each license type. And we can also find out what is the business case for applying for funding. So if we do need to get more licenses, how do we go about that? And usually there's a technical process, but there's also a soft skills process. Who do we make friends with, who knows that process and can influence that process? So our main factors will be premium custom connectors. So any app or flow that's got premium custom or Dataverse is going to need to have Power Apps Premium. So our users will need to have that. Managed environments. Managed environments are fantastic. They allow tenant admins to have much more control over the environments. The challenge we have with managed environments is all the new and cool features regarding environments are going managed environments only. And managed environments require every user to have a premium license. So that's another way that Microsoft are driving adoption of the licensing. How many Canvas apps? If we're working on a project that just has 2 Canvas apps, can we then get away with our E3 and E5 license if we're not using a premium data source? These are the questions that I'd ask in order for us to understand our licensing costs. Now, let's make sense of this. So here is our licensing costs. I haven't checked these the past couple of weeks. They might well have changed recently. They do change from time to time. So let's sort these low to high. Microsoft is an American company. They quote all the licenses in US dollars and they convert that to regional currencies. So Power BI Pro, $10 per user per month. So £7.70 plus VAT. That did go up and I think it's gone back down again. Power Apps Premium top up, $10. Top up from E3 or E5. Regular Power Apps Premium is $20. Power Automate is a whole minefield in itself. Okay. E3 or E5. So E5 is £51, like 60 plus pound. Quite a lot. So every user that has an account is going to be paying, the organization is going to be paying £60 per month for them. Dynamics customer service. Now, what I forgot to ask earlier when we talked about do we use Dynamics, do we choose Dynamics or do we choose common data model, is why does Microsoft push Dynamics over Dataverse? The reason they do this is licensing. It costs 2.5 times more for us to license our users for Dynamics Customer Service Professional compared to Power Apps Premium. So that's why Dynamics still exists and is still marketed so heavily. Then there's also Windows and Azure licensing, and then Dataverse capacity as well. We might need to keep an eye on and potentially top that. What's our environment strategy? So environments could have 3 potential purposes: development, test, and production. Optionally, we might have continued CI, so integration, where we've got multiple different development environments and we need to bring the code together into one place. That'll be CI. We might have test and UAT on a larger project, so some kind of internal test and then user acceptance testing. We might have pre-prod in addition to prod. So pre-prod would be an environment that's intended to mirror production as much as possible. So the type of environment that pre-prod would be set as is production instead of sandbox. It would have the same update frequency as prod. So basically a final check that nothing is going to break once we deploy to prod. Potentially a build environment. If we're using Azure DevOps, we'll have people in our team that are building pipelines. They're going to want to test those pipelines. We don't want them to test those pipelines in the test environment. So let's create a separate build environment for them to simply test their deployments. We might group our environments by business function, for example, standard and HR. Or in a smaller organization, we may have 2 different environment paths based on license. So for any projects that just use standard connectors, they go into our standard dev, test, and prod. Any projects that use premium connectors, they go into our premium dev, test, and prod. To clarify which environments are of type sandboxes and which are production. So for example, a pre-production environment, we might assume a sandbox, but could actually be configured to be production. Regions, they should all be in the same region. And also, what is the use of default environment? So how many people are going in there? What apps and business use cases are in there? And how many people in an organization are actually setting up and using developer plan environments in order to get their work out of the default environment? Once you've got an environment set up, how we deploy them, there's 3 choices. We could have Azure DevOps pipelines. That would generally require people with that particular skill set to be recruited and appointed. We can have managed environments with pipelines. So that'll then allow our business users to trigger a deployment from their dev or test environment and then have a gatekeeping process in place for it to be signed off. And that's all done within the make.Power Apps portal. The disadvantage is all the users need to then have their premium licenses assigned. And the fallback option is manual export and import of solutions. That can work on small scale projects where there's a low deployment frequency. If we've got some kind of workspace booking app that's going to be updated once a month, is it really worth the time and effort to create an Azure DevOps pipeline when we can just manually export and import? How do we make sense of all this? So let's get access to Power Platform Admin Center. We might be system administrator of, for example, 6 environments, but there's actually 20 environments. And we would need to have a Power Platform admin security role assigned to us, or we need to sit down with a tenant admin who has that. We've also got the Centre of Excellence Power BI reporting. So the Centre of Excellence toolkit creates an environment, and then every night it goes out across all the other environments and aggregates all the flows, apps into one place, and then creates Power BI reporting on that. The main advantage of the COE toolkit is in the Power BI reporting, any user who's got access to that Power BI workspace can then see the capacity and other items for all environments, whereas when we go into Power Platform Admin Center, we can only see that for the environments that we are system administrator of. So for an architect coming into a new organization, then it may be easiest to get access to the Centre of Excellence toolkit first and browse everything in there while we're making friends with the tenant admins. How will we report on our data? So every project, once we're getting data in there, our users are then going to say, I want to understand that, I want to see what's going on. Power BI will be our natural choice. Let's get some structure on this. So when will report requirements be defined? Early on in the project, in the middle, or at the end? Who will be the report authors? Will it be people in the development team who are hybrid Power Platform, Power BI people? Will it be the business users? So will there be people embedded in the business who know Power BI or can be trained in creating Power BI reports? Or does your organization have a dedicated management information business intelligence team? Who administers the Power BI online service? If we can be involved in reporting, then let's find out what the tenant or the admin settings for the Power BI portal are, because that will influence some of the reporting decisions we make. And are our key users familiar with Power BI Online? If not, we need to do some engagement and education. Additionally, do you want to have any telemetry? So do we want to actually understand what's happening in our Power Automate flows? For example, which ones are failing and when and why? If so, we can connect the Power Platform Admin Center. This needs a tenant admin to do it. We can connect the Power Platform Admin Center to Azure Application Insights and then write custom query language or KQL queries, which is a read-only language, a little bit similar to SQL. We can create queries to understand and visualize the telemetry and then create dashboards and share those dashboards with an Azure resource group. So on a high impact project, then AI is very useful. Do we want to have any data governance? In which case Azure Purview, that's continually evolving, and data lineage for Dataverse is kind of coming in there together with data labeling. The advantage for us is that's included in the E5 license. So if you've got E5, it's well worth exploring Purview. That was the first part. Second part, you'll be glad to know is far quicker. So this are the soft skills, and these are the parts that as architects or lead developers, we often don't focus on so much. So structuring that in terms of we're onboarded onto a new project, do we have these functions in place? So delivery manager and scrum leader. So who's going to make things happen day to day, week to week? Who are our business analysts? So who's going to go out and find out what the business requirements are and document those? Who are our testers? If we don't have any of those in place, then some of our developers are going to have to double up, and that's then going to reduce their available capacity because they'll then be multifunction. How do we track work? Azure DevOps, Jira, project, or something else? Where do we do our documentation? As an architect or lead dev, I'd suggest we then set the standard for documentation. So we choose a couple of pieces of work, we document that well, and then we explain to our team, this is what we're expecting from documentation. We could also consider what is the experience level of our developers. If we've got some more junior developers on our team, then we're probably going to need to help them along the way. So how do we help them become more capable, which will allow them to be more effective in the project? Do we want to take on some kind of training, mentoring, upskilling part of our role? Who will maintain and service the project? Because as an architect, I don't want that to be me. Okay. So if I don't want to maintain it, then how do I bring the technical team and business users along with me? And this is not just about having a piece of documentation we hand over at the end. This is about communicating the decisions we're making and why we're making them. So once go live happens, the maintenance team and the end users, they understand the product they've got and how it got to be the way it is. And that'll then free us up to then go on to another project without lots of queries. Why is it like this? Or how do I fix that? Do we manage developers? If we manage them, then that will then have a time commitment, which will reduce our available capacity. Wider business engagement. So before a project starts, let's understand who is the project sponsor. Is anybody familiar with the term project sponsor? Anybody would like to define what that is?
Person who holds the purse strings.
Yeah, great, Sharon, yes. So the senior person who's responsible for the success or failure and potentially the budget of a project. I say this because a lot of projects don't actually have a sponsor, but if we're having good governance, then there should be. So a named individual, so not a team, but a person. What are the expected outcomes? A lot of projects, they don't write that down at the start. And the reason they don't do that is there's often scope shift. So what is the business case? So why are we doing this? Why is the business investing all this time and money into it? Who are the key business representatives? And also what time commitments have they made to the project? What are the project timeframes? How long is it going to take? Is it going to be 1 month? Is it going to be 1 year? And also who are the key IT department decision makers? As an architect or lead developer, we're going to need to be working with our tenant admins on a number of things. So let's find out who they are. For a successful deployment, it's not just technical. We all need to collaborate with other people on the communications plan. So something goes live, people need to know about it, and they need to know how to use it. We'll probably need to train users. There'll need to be some kind of user documentation or videos, and there'll need to be some kind of bug reporting process. As an architect, we may not be leading on any of those, but we might be influencing them in order to ensure there's a successful outcome. So to summarize those technical skills together with those soft skills, so technical leadership and business partnering, that leads to informed decision making, and that will then give us the best chance of a project being successful. Yeah, that's the end. You'll be pleased to know. I've connected with most of you on LinkedIn. If you want a copy of the slide deck, just ping the message and I will send you a PDF, and then you can refer to that in the future and then go back to your projects and convince everyone that you know what you're doing.
Fantastic, Neil. Thank you so much. I've seen Neil deliver a summer session before. I'm actually blown away by how much information can be shared in a very short session. So thank you so much for that.
No problem at all. Very happy to be here, Keith.
Does anyone, before we move on, anyone have any questions for Neil? I think you've covered so much. It's a lot to absorb, which is always a good thing. So if anyone does think of anything, just use the raise hands. Otherwise, we can ask later or reach out to Neil.
I assume the question everyone was going to ask is, can we get a copy of the slides? Not a question, but awesome delivery. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I'll ping you a copy of the PDF on LinkedIn.
Lovely.
Very much.
Thanks, Neil. We can always attach that to the post on our community high fives page as well, so everyone can access those.
Yeah, great. Yes.
If that works.
Can I add them on here maybe? Let me try that.
Yeah, or you can send them on LinkedIn to me, Neil, and I'll send them to Keith to do something with.
Do something.
People do often reach out and ask for the slides, and because you can watch back on YouTube, maybe LinkedIn post. It would be good for the people that know it's there, but it'd be good for us to have them in the archive.
That's fine. Yes, I can't add an attachment on here, so yes, I'll send them on to you, Keith, Franco, and Sarah, and anybody else. Yeah, just message me.
Perfect, and then I'll do something with them. Yeah, thanks, Neil. Thanks. Can't help but wind you up today. Sorry, Sarah, but no, that's fine. We'll do that, and either if you want to export to PDF, or we can as well. We'll give out the document. Thanks, Neil.
No problem.
Fantastic. Well, lots of love in the chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much again, Neil. Before we wrap things up tonight, just want to pass over to Sarah, who's got a really interesting announcement coming up.
I'll try and make it sound interesting. But no, it is. You might know that I'm involved with the Experts Live UK committee, and we've got our first conference coming up in September. So we're all about cross-promoting these things across different platforms, and they have given a 50% discount code for anyone who follows High Fives. It's only £20 for a ticket anyway. So it just makes it a bit cheaper, and really the fee is just to make sure that people turn up, and there's a little bit of a commitment there. It's not the main source of income. I'm just going to pop in the chat now a post that went out, because that'll tell you who the speakers are. We've got Zoe Wilson as keynote. It's an afternoon event, and it's at Sixes in London, which is like a cricket place, so you can go and play cricket, have a few drinks, and here's some awesome sessions. So yeah, if you want the discount code for that, then let me know. That's
awesome. It. Thank you, Sarah. That, yeah, as you say, some great names there. Yep, Jeff Ross, Kevin McDonald, many others. Sophia Fricker. I mean, she's got a really good podcast with someone else. I can't remember who now, but you know, there's a lot. Sarah and Sophia.
That's the organising committee. So we're organisers, but the speakers are the ones you'll be going there to see.
Oh, absolutely, and yourselves, of course, as well. You know, everyone's doing great community work. So, yeah, really highly recommend that as well. But yeah, as you say, I see Nick Dolman and Reshmi and Andy Kemp, a friend of mine as well, actually up here, normally in Edinburgh. Andy's a great speaker, doing really cool things at the moment. So yeah, fantastic. Would highly recommend. Okay, so thanks for that, Sarah. Just to wrap things up, if anyone wants to follow us online, the LinkedIn page, that's where we give all the updates, announce the new events. We're always looking for people to get involved, new speakers, although we are fully booked up for the next few months, which is a great problem to have. But yeah, just getting involved. And the next event we've got is Tuesday, the 5th of August. So we'd love it if you could all make that one as well. Be great to see everyone there.